Hello and welcome to the 25th video in the Copperplate Majuscules series. This is for the letter Y. Almost at the end. Today I have a Nico G nib in an oblique speedball holder with acrylic ink in my nib. The capital letter Y is one that can be dropped lower, like a G or a J, which means it's very fun. There's a lot of options for it. I can see I've got something on my nib right there. There we go. This acrylic ink has been giving me no end of trouble today. It hardens so quickly. There we go. Right, so on here my X height is 5mm, so my total height will be 15 unless we drop it any lower. So I'm going to start at the 12 o'clock and do an under 10. Oh, I can move that over a little bit. There we go. And then the other side, I think, yeah, this is definitely going to be a drop lower sort of situation. Why are you not in focus? There we go. So on a Y, I started at the 12 o'clock, which means I can continue my flourish on if I want to. I can do whatever I want on that side. Okay. Let me clean off my nib really quickly. I also don't really like this ligature that I've got going on over here. There we go. So it is important with acrylic ink that I clean it off really carefully. Otherwise I'm going to have problems like I just did at the start. There we go. Saying that, there's like little tiny flecks and stuff left on my nib even after cleaning because it hardens so quickly. But we should be all tickety-booty go. Okay, so in a Y there is a lot of propensity here for flourishing and also for creating something that looks quite formal, something that looks quite balanced, whatever. So in a Y you can see I've dropped mine a little bit lower. So here is my second ascender and here is my baseline. So I've dropped mine just 5mm below, similar to a J or a G. The enclosed area of a Y, so this compound turn that you start with, I would say the compound turn, the smartest thing to do with it is to sort of assess where you're at in terms of what line space you have available. If you're doing something like envelope addressing, you're going to have less available to play with. But for me, the compound turn, yeah, so a compound turn, I think I've got enough space there, maybe. So compound turn is 2 X heights. So for me that is 10mm. There we go. 2 X heights. If you make it 3, which is totally possible, I just feel like it's too big, and it's therefore very hard to balance, and I've actually had to drop it an extra 1 as well. So you can make it where it is 3 X heights high. So I've got X height, X height, X height, and then you're not going to have enough space to give yourself a proper descender with just 5mm or 6 or whatever you're doing it to. It's just going to look too cramped in terms of proportion. So if you are doing the compound turn to 3 X heights, then you will need to drop your descender 1 more. I do think that wherever you end your compound turn, so whatever depth you go to, you will need another 2 lines below that. So if I put over here move that over a little bit, so I'm right at the edge of my paper somewhere. Okay, so if I go might be able to fit the weird depths in there if I'm careful. Whatever depth, just look at that, huh? Whatever depth the compound tin goes to, add, to move that up a little bit. Is that in focus? I'm hoping it is. Here we go. Add 2 X heights below for descender. That's just to give you enough breathing space and enough space to play with. So you can see right here, I've done mine to 2 X heights over here, and I've dropped down another 2 X heights, which is absolutely fine. This way is also possible. I think it just makes it look a little bit big compared to your other letters. That's personal preference, but I know that compared to my O, so my O width in here, I've obviously got an O in here, I've got an O width in here. That one's a little bit wide, but I should have had an O width in here. It's just a little on the wide side. That's okay. And then I've got an O width here wherever I can fit it. Yeah, so I don't go within like narrower than that O width. So it means that my next letter I already know is gonna match up to that kind of size. So if I have the word U, for example, then I know I've got that O width exactly the same. Did bring my black pen. There it is. So again, I've got an O width in here, O width, O width, O width, and an O width. So just like some, looks like I'm writing you, but never mind. So you can see that that thickness is repeated. So whatever you have on the inside of your compound tin right here, that is going to dictate the rest of your word. Obviously, in the larger Y, this oval is much, much wider. So it just means that my O is going to be really wide. And it's going to start looking more like a circle than an oval. I know generally the rule is, however wide your O is, it must be, that must be a third of its height, roughly. So it should be taller and skinnier in a ratio of 1 to 3. But obviously here, I think we're at 1 to 2. So it's becoming a lot more rounded, which I personally just don't like. So I'm much more partial to this, these ratios right here. So this is what I'm going to be working with. Excuse me. Okay, so in a Y, we've got a lot of space for flourishing. So we've obviously got, well, let me move that right over. So we've got flourishable area right here. So we can flourish right there. We can also flourish here. I'll move that over a little bit, then I should be able to fit that in somewhere. You can also flourish up here if you need to. So if you need to make that taller and go over your words, then you absolutely can. Where can I put that? If I do this right here, just be super sneaky, like that. So I can then say flourish here. In terms of your legibility box, the legibility box is very much centered on the compound turn area. So it's very here, and it's also partially some of this line. Because it is so long and you've got a longer letter, you can swing back over. So if I wanted to, I could continue that over. I wouldn't lose the legibility of my letter. But obviously that it depends on the balance of the word and also what your writing calls for. If it's a much more formal piece of writing, then I wouldn't over flourish at all. You could also put your square top on here and do just a total downstroke down, and then go into your descender. But that is personal preference. I usually leave it as a really long universal line of beauty, purely so that if I want to flourish, I can. Oh, I wonder if I can fit that in here really cheekily and just go, that's a universal line of beauty in there. Look at that, huh? Saving space. Okay. A Y doesn't come up that often. The most common thing I can think of is like thank you cards. And I think it's really rare, again, like twofold, to have another descender in a word that begins with Y. So pretty much your lower extended capital is gonna have the rule of the bottom area. So unless you're heavily flourishing like an A or whatever on the end of a word, in order to drop down lower and balance, it might mean that you need to cross back over yourself and do some kind of magic on the bottom. But I mean, I think that's about it for a Y. It obviously, it wouldn't impact ascenders at all, because this is just a universal line of beauty. So you would have your O space, and then you'd be able to do your ascenders, no problem. But anything else you can think of, just please let me know. Ys are a lot of fun. They can give a lot of premise for flourishing. But yeah, they're one of my favorites, definitely. Have a good day.